Where you from? Where you from? Where you from, fool?
Biggie from Nutty Block. I'm here to talk to you about gangs. Gangs is not the right way to go. See, I made a mistake by joining a gang. And my mistake is I ain't got no friends or nothing now. It's just me trying to change my life over to God.
What was life like before joining the gang?
It was like everybody I was around was gangbangers. It was good though. I had a good, grateful life. I had money in my pocket. Now, I'm a gangbang. I ain't got no money in my pocket. No girls. Or nothing. Drugs, guns, and money. Ooh.
How did you learn about the gang, and did you know people that was in the gang before you joined?
I knew about it. All my family was in the gang. And I know a whole lot of people that was in the gang.
How old were you when you joined the gang?
I was 16 when I joined the gang. It's like when my daddy passed away, I lost my mom. Didn't want to listen to my mama, and then I was young. Like, that's not the right way to go. You gonna end up like me. You can end up dead or in jail around here. Like, some bull. But we out here, I'm out here gangbanging though. For real. But I want you little kids to stay in school, do good, work, or whatever. Get your diploma, be in a football field, anything, all that.
Did you feel better about your dad's death after you joined the gang?
No, I didn't. I felt like I wasn't getting nowhere. It was horrible. So I just had to get out. Yeah,
what was it like being in the gang?
It ain't good. It's worse being in a war. It's a war every day out here. You gotta watch your back, jump around. It's crazy.
Why did you leave the gang?
Because I started seeing my little cousins growing up. They, started acting bad like I was. I didn't want them to go the same path I did. Like, so I just stopped doing what I do. You feel me? So little kids, stay out of trouble. Don't get into no gangs. Stay away from gangbangers. Stay away from bad guys. Don't go to jail. That is not the right way to go. I'm telling you.
Wells, I'm 24 years old.
All right. What was life like before joining the gang?
Before joining the gang, life was pretty simple. I grew up with a stepfather and my mother in the home. I had 4 other siblings. Kind of didn't have no parental supervision because mom worked a lot and stepdad worked a lot, so I kind of was just on my own in the streets and running around doing whatever it is I thought I wanted to do.
How did you run into the gang?
I actually ran into the gangs. I grew up in a neighborhood that, I grew up in Compton. Around there, every neighborhood actually had gangs. So really pretty much just being around family members and people who, grew up in it themselves, and it just was like your environment was mostly predominantly gang environment. So that's how I ran into gang.
What would you say was your main reason for joining?
My main reason for joining gang, there was no particular reason. There was various reasons, but for the most part, I could say that me and my friends were in gangs. We kind of all grew up together, and it was kind of just something that you transitioned to where I come from being a young kid to as you got older. You just was identified with the neighborhood that you grew up in.
How did you join the gang?
I joined the gang by simply just being around a lot, hanging out with my friends, and as we all hung out, it just turned into that, doing little things that, gang members do. Then, you acquire nicknames by what you do, and through that, it kind of, initiated you into being in the gang because of who you associated with and where you guys did and the activities that you guys did when you was around each other.
How old were you when you joined?
When I joined the gang, I think I was probably in the 7th or 6th grade. I was so I had to be around 11. So, you know, and I think that's, about 11 years old.
Okay. Did you feel important after joining the gang?
After joining the gang, I wouldn't say I felt important, but I just felt a sense of what was it? What's the word I'm looking for? A family, you know, of being wanted and being cared for. So, you know, I could say that.
Can you tell me an experience that had a bad effect on you from being in the gang?
I think one of the experiences that I experienced as in the gang was at the age of 16, and I watched one of my close friends get killed. You know, he was about 17, getting ready to turn 18, and he was shot in the head, and you know, by some of the rival gang members. And to watch a friend that's close to you die is something that you know you never forget, and it's something that has a huge impact on you. You know, it's something I don't wish on anybody.
How old were you when you got out of the gang?
When I got out the gang, I was 21.
For what reason?
I got out the gang because I began to mature as a man, you know, and I began to see that gangs are not meant for people to be in. You know, they're not healthy for people. They cannot profit you. They can't benefit you in no good way. You know, they only use you for the benefit of the agenda of the gangs, and you know, it kind of wasn't something that I wanted for myself. I can't be anything in life being in a gang, so I decided that if I wanted something in life, I had to let go of the gang life. So I decided to let go of it.
What do you do now that you're out the gang?
Now that I'm out the gang, I work. You know, I do renewable energy. You know, I'm a technician. I'm also a preacher. You know, I live for Jesus Christ, so I also preach full time wherever I go, wherever I'm doing. You know, I live to set an example for other young people who were like me, who were in gangs, or not just in gangs, but young people in life who seem to can't find their way, seem to don't know their identity. That's what I do now. So.
What is your message to kids?
My message to young people today is to know your identity. I think that's the most important thing that I learned about myself, about being in gangs and getting out, and why I got out, because I learned who I was. I realized today that, you know, I have the potential to be anything in life that I want to be. And I tell young people that you have the potential to be anything in life that you want to be. But when you realize that about yourself, you'll begin to carry yourself and conduct yourself in a manner worthy of that. And I tell young people all the time that when you know your identity, you'll realize your purpose and your destiny in life. And those two things will guide you through life and to keep you from getting involved with things that aren't in line with your destiny and purpose. So I tell people that all the time, to know your identity.
My name is Baby Spider, 97th Street, neighborhood East Coast.
What was life like before joining the gang?
Before joining the gang, life was almost perfect, very close to perfect. I was born to a single mother. It's not that I didn't know my father, they just weren't together. And my mother was a very devout Christian. She made sure I went to private school. Most of my activities were church-based, including baseball, basketball, and most of my extracurricular activities. And I didn't know it, but life was beautiful. I thought I was missing out on something, but as I look back in retrospect, life was what it was supposed to be.
How did you run into the gang?
Gangs in general, they were always around me. I was born and raised in Compton primarily. The gang that I actually ended up joining came my way because my father, like I said, we didn't live in the same household, but I had older brothers that lived in my father's house, and they became affiliated with the gang prior to me. And in a lot of ways, I was following in my older brother's footsteps by joining that particular gang. The actual just gang life and activity, like I said, was always in my surroundings, my general surroundings, and for some reason, still not really, for a reason that I really can't state today. I still don't know why. It was just very attractive to me. In a foolish way, I just was attracted to the trouble. I grew up being kind of scared of violence, and I think in my life, being in a gang and being a person that would promote instigate, be the first to cause trouble was kind of like a challenge to me that I met, and I wanted to prove to myself that I wasn't scary. So somehow I just got caught up in wanting to be, I was a wannabe, wanting to be in the game.
How did you join the gang?
I know you might think that there's only one way to join a gang, and that's by a group or a couple or one person jumping on you and fighting into a gang. I never really jumped, which they call courted into a gang. I basically joined the gang by hanging around and just participating in the activities. My naiveness, if that's a word, my being naive had me thinking that the gangs operated on a way more intense level than they actually did. So when I first started coming around and being around, in order not to stand out or look like I wasn't qualified, I became highly active and doing things that even those with the worst reputations weren't willing to do or weren't actually doing, because I didn't know any better. I thought that the reason why everybody respected them and was scared of them was because they were quick to do certain things when actually, in all actuality, they weren't necessarily. And, you know, I was just hanging around all the time, around the time, and that's usually what happens. You hang around enough to where they say you've been around enough, you're hanging out enough that, you know, you need to, you should might as well join the gang. And in order to join the gang, you have to fight a few people. But in my days of hanging around, I became so active in the activity that what was going on, being so much of a leader, is just that I just kind of like morphed into a gang member. It was never a defining moment like today is the day that you become a member. Just, like I said, I knew a lot of people based on my brother. He wasn't actually on the streets at the time that I started gangbanging. He was in prison. So it wasn't like he was there to hold my hand, but I assumed the role, and that was that.
How old were you when you joined?
When I joined the gang, I was roughly 15 or 16.
Did you feel important after you joined the gang?
Once again, me being naive and foolish and even ignorant, I would have to say yes, I did feel very important after I joined the gang. It was just something about the idea. When I was that age, gang culture was very popular in the city, in LA, where I grew up. And you know, like the phrase goes that good girls like bad guys, and it just seemed like, you know, the rap music with the gang overtures was real popular, and it just seemed like it was the happening thing to do. And once I became a gang, and not only was I a gang member, but I was amongst the more respected and if you want to call it hierarchy in the gang, and it did give me a sense of pride and made me feel pretty important.
What was life like being in the gang?
That's a pretty broad question, but life was very empty. You hang around with a lot of people that are not attempting to do nothing in life, basically happy with what they were born with. And those that are trying to have more than what they were born with are breaking the law to get it. So therefore you find yourself in a circle of people that are constantly breaking the law, and you tend to follow the same suit. You know, it was violence, jail time, and empty time. Because, you know, when I look at it in hindsight, it was a big waste of time. And I consider it, if not one of the biggest mistakes I ever made in my life.
Okay. How did your mom feel about you being in the gang?
My mother was devastated, disappointed, disgusted. I'll just say 3 Ds. There's other words I could use, but she did. I was her only son. She did everything in her power outside of not living in Compton. She did everything that she possibly could. She thought she could ensure that I wouldn't be in a gang. So once she had to come to the realization and face the fact that I actually was in a gang, I'm pretty sure that she just questioned everything she did as a parent to raise me, the instructions she gave me. It broke her heart, actually. I was a person that was considered to have so much potential. People always told me not to do anything I wanted, and I chose to throw it away run around with a whole bunch of nobody. So as you can imagine, it crushed my mother.
How did your brother feel about it?
Initially, my brother wasn't too fond of the idea because, for one, I was from the gang that he was from, and he knew with our parents, he would have to assume some type of responsibility. So he didn't want to seem like he was leading me down that road. But once he realized it was something nothing he could do about it, or he could change it, he was proud and happy to have me a part of it. And, you know, you got your little brother in the same gang as you, developing his own reputation that didn't need his help. So he was proud of me. He was proud of the way I carried myself. Never hear nothing foul about me doing something that would be unbecoming of a true G. So, you know, he was proud of me.
Why did you get out the game?
I finally, there's a few reasons why I got out the gang. The general, overall reason is because I finally realized that it was useless and worthless. And I feel like in life that anything you apply yourself to, you should be able to project in the future and kind of get an idea of what you expect to get out of it. And I realized that in the game, there's nothing you can get out of it. All you do is give, and lose. So that was one of the main reasons based on incidents that took place, I realized and determined that there was no loyalty from people that I call homies. As well, I had sons, and I would hate for them to look at me being a part of the gang and think that it was cool. So I really just figured I had to change my ways and get out of it. It was really a waste of time. Like I said earlier, it was like I realized one of the worst mistakes I made in my whole life. When you line yourself up with a gang, you're basically claiming to be the scum of the earth, the nothings, the nobodies, the people that society don't accept or are afraid of or want to eliminate, not because they're being bigots towards you or because you don't deserve it, but basically what you're saying is, I'm a person you can't trust, a person you should be scared of, a person who doesn't want anything out of life, and I'm here to terrorize. And that's what saying I'm a gang member really is. So once that crystallized in my mind, and I guess woke up and came to my senses, I realized I needed to make a beeline, hurry up, and disassociate myself from the gang life.
How did you get out?
I just walked away, stopped participating. I still communicate and stay in touch with a few people that were from the gang, not in a gang sense, but you know, I just still know certain people and we're friends or we're associates with or without the gang. But it's not like maybe some other gangs or how it was in the past where it's blood in, blood out, you can't walk away. I just simply walk away. I was never a person that was in a gang that followed orders or did what protocol the group said I was supposed to do. I always did what I wanted to do. So I've seen people do it before me too that were members of the gang, just stopped being from the gang. I just stopped. So I'm cool. I don't need this anymore. Just walked away.
What do you do now that you're out the game?
Well, the things that I do now that I'm out the game are some I was still doing the majority of them while I was a gang member. I'm a recording artist. I do a bit of acting. Spend more time doing things that are positive, like spend a little more time in church, a little more time going to see about my mother. She's getting older now. I do a lot of things that, and there's a lot of more free time. It's not like I've replaced the actual gang activity with a specific activity or something else. I just don't participate in the gang anymore.
Can you tell me about an experience that had a bad effect on you?
It was New Year's Eve of 1996. I'm from 97th Street, so we had kind of been looking forward to the year 1997 as a group. Just trying to celebrate the big, calling it our year because it was 1997. We from 97th Street. And on New Year's Eve, 1996, with 12 midnight, it would have been 1997. We had like a big affair planned. We was gonna party hard, and I went to the swap meet with two of my homeboys, Big Milk and Little Milk. And while we was in the swap meet, we got into a fight with some enemies. We didn't have a gun. Yeah, we had a gun. We had no bullets. And, before going to the swap meet, we drove around the neighborhood checking with people to either find another gun or some bullets for the gun that we had. And because of time restraints, we couldn't wait around. The swap meet closed at 7, it was already after 6. So it was either find the bullets in the gun fast or just go without it. And at the time, what you would call your big homie, my big homie Milk, he was 27. He made the call like saying, fuck it, we don't need no bullets. We be some fighting motherfuckers if we go, if anything happens. So we went to the swap meet, and he was in rare form. He usually a type of dude that's not confrontational, just go with the flow. But because it was 1997 coming up, he was kind of like what we call turned up these days, and he kind of like picked a fight with these two other guys that was from the enemy gang in the swap meet. It turned into a brawl, and in the middle of a fight, the dudes pulled out a gun, and they got to shoot. I actually had to wrestle with the dude while he had the gun, while he fired it while we was wrestling. In the process, my big homie Bill got shot and killed. And I remember being there with them in the alley of the swap meet as we tried to exit. And it was big chaos, everybody running everywhere. And it was a nurse telling me to talk to him. She was telling me that the hearing is the last sense that goes when you die. She was like, he can hear you, baby, just talk to him, talk to him. I remember standing there next to my homeboy. I loved him to death. He was like one of my best friends. And I just couldn't think of anything to say. And she kept trying to encourage me to talk to him, but you know, in my mind, I was just thinking that he was going to bounce back. It's like, it was death in gangs is almost like cartoonish. I've been to funerals, but I had never actually witnessed anyone take their last breath or struggle to take their last breath. And I did that day. It had a pretty deep effect on me. Foolishly enough, not enough to make me stop right then, but if I had to pick an experience that was pretty traumatic for me, that would be the one.
What is your message to kids about joining the gang?
My message to kids about joining the gang would have to be, first of all, plain and simple, don't do it, never, no way, no how. It's a way to make sure that you end up as a loser in life. I mean, what I would ask of any young person that is considering being a part of the gang is how they think it's going to benefit their life in the future. If they can give me a positive answer, I would go ahead and tell them to go ahead and join the gang. But there is no positive results of being a part of the gang. The people who you think are the most close to you, loyal to you, your homeboys, they will tell on you. They will rob you. They will steal from you. There is no loyalty. It's every man for himself. There's usually a bunch of cowards that stick together because they're scared to stand on their own. A real man doesn't need a group in order to feel like he's secure. Be a man, find something you can apply yourself to that's going to help you benefit yourself in the future. This gangs is not it.
I can do it if I just believe it. There's nothing to it. I believe I can fly.